And you're married?
I am, with 4 really phenomenal kids, great kids. Right out of the Bible, how Paul experienced the presence of God in his life. You know, every fiber of your body becomes alive. And then God just spoke very, very little, but very plainly. You know, you're going to be working for me. It's making really good money. And the income went to nothing, had to go hustle to make money. She was mad at me for 6 months. I mean, pretty mad. And it was the best thing that's ever happened to us as a couple, as human beings. Best thing that ever happened, and God has blessed us so many times over.
Yeah. So, Pastor, we're going to get into your story a little bit, and you know, how you became a pastor, what you did before that, what it was like to have that calling to be a pastor. But right now we're on church property, and we're walking this prayer walk. So
it's one of my favorite places of the church. Is I hope you'll get a few shots at and show people that this is just a gift from God. And the area we're going to go to is actually naturally that way. And you're going to see this opening. And the only thing we did is we put a cross right in the middle of this natural opening. And it's like, wow, surrounded by trees. And they purchased it a long time ago, and nothing had been done with it. They might have had a vision back then, but they didn't document it or say, here's what we wanted to do. But they knew that when it was an opportunity to get the property, that they did for the future. And so when I came, it's like, well, the future's here.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a person that sees things and does things. You know, it's like, you have to keep moving in ministry.
Yeah.
As in any profession, if you're staying still, you're moving backwards, really. So I walked out here, and the first thing that just grabbed me was this beauty of it back here. And I started to think, what could we do with this? And we went through a process of bringing people into the decision making and the creative part of it.
And it's quite a bit of property.
Yeah.
And there is plans to do a pretty big expansion here, even right with the church.
Yeah, it became abundantly clear to us that we need to expand our school. We have a fantastic team that leads our school down here, and there's a need and a desire for moms and dads to bring their kids into the environment like we create here, and so we're just answering God's call and expanding.
So you mentioned that you did some work in Miami, so obviously you're from there.
Actually, I'm from Minnesota.
Oh, are you? Okay, okay.
I'm from the land of the frozen chosen up there, as we like to call it, and grew up in Duluth, Minnesota, and then moved down to Minneapolis and began to develop some businesses there. And as we grew and expanded, my brothers and I decided we wanted to come down to this area as well.
Okay.
So we had 2 locations for the work we were doing, and really got a good foothold down here and started working with a number of clients in the area down here in Miami.
And what type of work was it?
Well, when we first came down here, we started to do a specialized area called pre-press. In the printing process, there was a little segment that you had to convert people's ideas into film. And they print from film, they then go into making plates for printing. So we had an area and a nice run for a while where we were making great money and the printers were doing all the work. So we had the process of converting digital into film, and they would take the film and create it into plates. So we had this little niche called pre-press. But the printers figured out we were making all the money, and not just us, obviously anybody in that area. They just bought everybody out. They have the money, the printers do.
Right.
So long story short, we had to figure out pretty quick what else are we going to do, because we could see the end of that gravy train was coming quickly. And so we got into the internet push, and we were right at the beginning of that, from the very start.
So you pivoted pretty quickly.
Immediately.
That's smart.
When you're small, you don't have a lot of choice, so you move quickly.
Yeah.
And so we got into that heavy, and we landed some great clients, and the one client we landed changed my life, really, probably business-wise, was Johnson & Johnson.
Oh, wow, that's a big client.
It was huge, and so we actually did work for them throughout Latin America and helped them develop their infrastructure for intranet, which is all their internal processes. And I had a cool job. My job was to go figure out their company, all the different elements in the medical sector, to have each of the sectors help them develop strategies and tools to then implement intranet within the company itself. So I got to travel to Latin America. I would talk to doctors and hospitals and understand their businesses. And so I knew more about Johnson & Johnson than Johnson & Johnson knew about them.
I'm sure.
Because I literally got schooled in everybody. So long story short, I got a real education. And we pretty much completed the project, and they asked me to come on and work for them for a while, which...
Wow.
Yeah, good and bad. Mm-hmm. One, I was kind of curious what it would be like to work for a company like Johnson & Johnson.
Because you owned
on my own.
Yeah, which is...
was not really a great team player back then.
I understand that. I can relate to that.
Yeah, and So, I survived.
Yeah.
And I did okay, working in that environment, which I found you got to change things, because you're not your own boss anymore.
Yeah.
So we had to figure that out.
So you lived in Miami for
20 plus years.
20 years,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And you're married?
I am, with 4 really phenomenal kids, great kids.
I know one of them real well.
Yeah.
Derek, your son, who's a
Yeah.
bass player in the worship team, which I'm a part of. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. I'm really glad to be a part of it.
Here. We know each other.
Yeah, we do know each other. And it's been a huge blessing in my life to be on the worship team. And
we love having you, by the way.
Thank you very much. So let's get into that day. One day, you're driving,
yeah.
and what tell that story a little
Literally
bit.
on my way home I'm pretty sure it was my way home from work. And I was on the freeway in Miami, and like right out of the Bible, how Paul experienced the presence of God in his life. It is very similar to that. He was on a dusty road. I'm on a freeway in Miami. God just spoke to me, and as I describe it, every fiber of your body becomes alive when you get connected like that. And in a real simplistic version, if you stuck your finger in a light socket, you'd get full attention, right? There's nothing distracting you at that moment.
Like just complete clarity.
Complete clarity, totally open, and then God just spoke very, very little, but very plainly. You're going to be working for me. It was so clear and so concise and so dramatic, to put it mildly, and I think that's what I needed. Because I think I've been on the edges of ministry and being a part of a church in more depth, and I was kind of exploring, going deeper in the church, but I definitely needed kind of Paul's clarity. There's no question, I got this call, and it happened again. And this time, it was about my wife, and I got that same message: your wife will be your helper. And she was not that enthused to hear that, to be quite honest with you. I gave the very, because she was there, I was very kind about how she responded to my call, which is, first of all, okay, honey, kind of pat you on the head, type of okay.
Yeah. This will pass.
This will pass. And then I came back after running, and I had gotten the same kind of message, same response, and that you're going to be my helper. And I told her, I'm on my knees, I'm crying, and it's like really emotional about this. And she's going, okay. 'Cause she didn't get the calling. As she pointed out to me more than once, I did not get that calling.
How long ago was this?
That's 20 plus years now.
You mentioned you
so.
have 4 kids. How were they?
Yeah.
They must have been pretty young.
Oh, it couldn't have been the worst timing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad timing to drop what you're doing. I was making really good money, and had a mortgage and bills like everybody else does, and then to make that decision to stop that gravy train and get on God's kingdom building gravy train, not a gravy train, but on that walk of life, my journey, new journey. And the income went to nothing. Had to go hustle to make money while going to school full time. And I had to drive from Miami to Orlando for my school, sometimes, I think a couple times a week. I knew I didn't have a lot of time to play with this, because I got 4 little kids, right? And it's like, how are you going to manage this over? You better do it quick.
Yeah.
And my wife still loved me, and I thought that might have been another reason just to keep her on the team, just get it over with. So I went literally full time, all in 100%.
After you get that call and you're on the freeway, what are the steps to
that's
unraveling
a great question.
that?
How do you unpack that, right?
Yeah, did it take a year?
No.
Did you do it right away?
No,
Did you
went quick.
quit your job because you got to find the right school, all that stuff.
I don't know the exact timing, but it was fast. I found the school, and I got all the things that needed to happen to get the process started. I was all in. And then the crazy thing is, so I'm in the process, right? And I get a call from it's called a district superintendent, like the local boss for all the churches down there. I remember he says, I got an opportunity for you if you'd like to go pastor a church now. And I'm not credentialed, I'm a nobody. It's like asking you, hey, you want to come here and run this church, And worse than that, I don't have the theological training to run a church. I'm like a guy off the street. They knew I had a call. So go ahead and answer it. Here you go.
Wow. And, so you weren't done with your schooling?
Not even close.
Point? Oh, wow.
No, not even close. Yeah, I started, I think it was 2009 when I actually started the process. I literally swimming as fast as I could at the beginning because I really had no clue what I was doing. I know how to run a business. I know how to, get things done. But running a church and the emotional commitment you have to make to that, and dealing with people's life and death problems and all the turmoil that can be a part of a church, and that's just a learning experience. Now here's the hard part. So we had a nice house. And I said, well, I got this job. It's got to be okay with you, but we got to, leave our house and go live on the church property. There are parsonage. And she's nodding her head, yeah, okay, because she's thinking, this too
similar
shall pass.
At least, yeah, this too shall pass. That's right.
And then literally, like it's time to go, it's packing time, and it finally dawned on her that this is not going away. She's not changing his mind. She was mad at me for 6 months. I mean, pretty mad. That was her nest. That's where she had her babies.
Yeah.
And you don't take away a woman's nest and tell them, and it wasn't like we went to a Taj Mahal. It was a real step down financially. The house was a, busy street, and we had a nice yard for the kids. All of that gone. I made $32,000 the first year, which starved us basically.
You have to struggle with doubt, or did you still have that sort of momentum that you didn't really question it at that phase?
No,
you just know it's all in.
When you got a little further down the road, that's when you start questioning.
Yeah,
I'm still here doing this, but at the beginning it was just so clear. It hadn't been that clear, I wouldn't have done it, I'm sure. You leave so much behind to do this, and it was the best thing that's ever happened to us as a couple, as human beings. Best thing that ever happened, and God has blessed us.
Yeah.
So many times over.
Yeah.
Our marriage is so much better.
And I don't know if I asked this, but how long have you been married? I don't know.
29 years.
29 years. It's a good long time.
And it's been getting better as we go on. And the proof is in the pudding that it is because of our faith that our marriage gets stronger all the time.
That's great.
We're more in love with each other now than we were when we got married. It's deeper and richer and more committed now, and it's like that all because of our relationship with Christ.
So let me ask about marriage just a little bit. I've been in a long relationship as well. I've been in a long relationship as well, and I think everybody has their own strategy to make it work, right? So a couple things. I mean, just to list a couple that you think have been sort of the key to you guys.
Well, so I do counseling with young couples.
Okay.
Or older couples, doesn't matter. And I've pretty much got that figured out about how to set them up for success. Because I look at that and go, listen, I got one shot at these guys. What do they need to hear that they'll hold on to? So, when I talk to them, and I have categories of things we have to talk about. Some intimate things, some financial and the common sense and practical things. And there's two things that I just learned one recently, which is, understanding, you have to understand each other. That's a spam call, what a waste. So there's two things that are really important to understand about each other. And one of them is women need to understand what's important to men. And for men, it's respect. They need to feel respected. Not that they don't need the other things, it's just a priority for us.
Right,
and for
it's
women,
the top of the list.
Top of our list. And for women, the priority has to be emotional support, right? And you experience this, right? We just look at things 100%. Differently. Whoever said men and women are the same, I don't know where they've been. There's nothing close.
They're not in a 29-year marriage, probably.
Probably not, because it's just not true. It is not true. And both are valued equally. Hands down. My wife we're important to each other and need to prioritize each other, but I recently figured that out and been sharing it with couples and say, you've got to understand this. If you want to figure how you're going to keep communicating, you need to know what his needs are, and you need to know what her needs are, her priority needs. You still have to hold hands and do the other things too, but it was really helpful for me to figure that out for myself. And here's the best part. I got to apply it in my own marriage.
So we're standing or sitting on the stage here at Indian River Church. How long have you been here, and what brought you to Indian River
I was just
Church?
informed it's going to be 4 years, July 1.
Yes, I heard that on Sunday.
I forgot it myself. Wow, and it's like, really? 4 years already?
So what brought you here? I mean, how does that whole thing work? Do you apply for that, or does someone actually say you're going there?
Yeah, in fact, I was just sharing, I didn't want to come here. First of all, I came from Miami, and where am I going? Titusville?
Yeah, right.
And then I drove up here, and it was a gray, cloudy day when I drove up here, and I'm going, wow, there's absolutely nothing. They don't even have a Chick-fil-A here. It's so bad, right? And no, it was not inspiring coming from that environment. But here's the crazy thing. I got assigned here, right? And I kind of protested, but part of the agreement is when you become a pastor with the Methodist organization is that you go where they tell you. You know, that's kind of the deal.
Yeah.
They're not going to make you, but you're supposed to. And I honored that.
So we'll pivot to the worship team, which is how we met, obviously. How important do you think that is for a church? Because you seem to want to invest a little bit in having a good worship team.
Or a lot.
Yeah, or a lot, yeah.
When I got around to the worship team 3 years into this job, it was underperforming, and but I couldn't do anything about it because there's so many other things to putting your
It was lower on the list.
It's actually high on the list. I just couldn't do anything about it.
Okay.
Because what's the solution, right? You could find a rock star talent, or you just, try to, when you get to it, you get to it. So I think back in January, I literally got involved in it. And I had a priority, which is one, create an environment that you wanted to be here. And then maybe we've achieved that together. That's one thing. It's like, I like showing up because we have fun together.
I love it.
We have a good time making music.
What's interesting about being a pastor that I don't think a lot of people understand is you're almost like the CEO of the church. Like you're managing are you managing a lot of those things? Or?
I'm a little unique in that because I came from the business environment, so I am, and I always have managed the church from that perspective. Some pastors though are strictly just they provide the theology and the word, and that's it. They don't manage anything. But my calling has always been to organizational in that respect. So
that's great.
Yeah, it comes really naturally to me, and I can do that with one hand tied behind my back. Get the organization organized and moving, and draw up plans and have a vision for where we're going. That's pretty easy for me to do that. Other things I struggle with, and other parts of the job I struggle with, but that comes pretty easy to me.
Our channel is about break from the grind, right? So what do you do to get away from that stuff, even if it's something that you enjoy?
Music is actually, I'm very passionate about music, and I do a lot of writing and I'm working a lot of songs, and so I spend a good chunk of time doing that, and then in my free time, and then I also like to hang out with my kids, and one of the things we are doing is boating.
Boating for fishing or boating for sport?
Well, the truth is, I pretend to fish. My sons are getting better at it, but I more pretend to fish because I just love getting out there. And for me, if I go 20 miles out on a boat into the ocean and I can't see land, this is really very special time for me.
That's really interesting.
The water out, you get out towards the Gulf Stream, the water is super clear, and you can see the fish are going crazy, and that's actually incredibly powerful time for me out there.
It's much further now that you're in Titusville. You probably were able to get out there a lot easier.
7 miles.
Yeah.
In Miami it was 7 miles, and there was a lot of places you quickly could go to. But here you got to work at it a little bit more and a little further out. But I love to scuba dive, and we try to get out and do that once a year minimum. So.
And how often are you out on that boat?
Not nearly as much as I could, mostly because we've been fixing it.
Yeah.
And that's actually another way to disconnect is the time I spent repairing the boat. Some people bemoan it, it's like, actually I don't mind it at all. It's no fun when it's 98 degrees and you're sweating, but generally speaking, I like fixing the boat. It's tinkering, relaxing time. I can actually solve problems on the boat most of the times, right? Where in ministry, you don't solve a lot of people's problems. You hear people's problems, you help them walk with their problems, but there's a lot of things that get left unfixed. God's got to fix them, and I don't get to do that. So it's nice to have something you can actually go, oh, that's better than when I started, yay. So I enjoy doing that.
I think it's obviously important to have a job that you're passionate about, something that you love, that and in your case feels like a calling. Not everybody has that opportunity, or not everybody takes that opportunity, I would say.
That's funny. I've had jobs where very unsatisfied but got paid a lot, and I cannot do that. I just cannot do that, and then never again could I do it. I have to be doing something that I feel passionate about now, and there's no going back from that. And yet, when you got to feed your family, I've done some stuff to make sure my family had food that, I'm glad I don't have to do that again. Manual labor, I could care less, and it didn't bother me, and I actually don't mind manual labor, but Now, so there's a lot of people have to just pay the bills. I get
true.
that. I've been there and done that a lot of times, and so I get that when people just have to put their nose down and just feed their families, just get through life. And but I'm so blessed, and that's why I look at my life now. And even though I had some difficult times getting here, right now the blessing has been amazing. So when you follow your passions, you may not get the financial rewards, you definitely may not get the accolades and whatnot, but you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And that itself is pretty satisfying. And what do you want from life? Because I ask this people all the time, what do you want your last day on earth to look like?
Yeah.
And nobody ever said, well, I want to count my money at the end, or I want to see how many cars I have. And no, of course you don't.
You can't take it with you either, right?
Can't take it with you, right? But you want to have people who love you surround you in your last days. You want to be in that environment. So what do you got to do to make sure your relationships are good? What kind of person are you going to be on that journey to make sure that happens?
That's great.
I think you live your life that way, then you're going to get the blessings, for sure.
And you'll probably make different choices.
Way different choices when it's about that.
Yeah.
Because at the end, I've seen a lot of people with a lot of money be really miserable. So it's relationships, starting with God. And then the people around you. And you get those things right, life is sweet. Even if it's hard, it's sweet.
Well, thank you for taking the time.
God bless you.
And I'll see you tomorrow evening at rehearsal.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
God places people in our lives for valuable reasons. And there are the few that come along that help to move our lives toward a greater purpose. Pastor Stuart has been that for me. Becoming a part of the worship team arrived at a time in my life when I needed it most. And I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of the Indian River Church family. I want to thank Pastor Stuart for taking the time out of his busy day to speak with us. Until next time, thank you for watching.